Hi everyone, welcome to this lesson on Scarlett's World by Tommy Emmanuel. Before we start the lesson, I'd like to point out that only the first part will be released on YouTube. For full access, you can head over to my Patreon page or my brand new website. If you're looking for the tab and the notation file, then do head over to the website and buy it through the music notes link there. That way you'll get 20% off the regular price. All links are in the description. Scarlett's World is a new and unreleased song by Tommy, and after a flurry of requests, you guys convinced me to already make a lesson on it. But remember, being this early is always a risk with Tommy. Things can always change. There are several live versions floating around on YouTube, and some of them are quite different. That's why I want to extend some special thanks to Jerem Richardson for giving me some extra inside information. Jerem was one of the attendees at Tommy's 2023 camp in Nashville, and he made a video of Tommy giving some background info on this song. And among other things, he said this.
So here it is, in its finally finished state. It's called Scarlett's World. Hope you like it.
So that was all the confirmation I needed to get to work. Whenever there was any doubt, I used the version Jerem sent me to check. You will, for instance, notice that the section with harmonics that he plays in earlier versions, that has been dropped. And any parts that have been dropped is good news, because Scarlett's World is a pretty challenging song as it is. The fretting hand, for a change, is getting the lightest part of the workload, as there are no exceptionally difficult chord voicings here. There are a few chords with the thumb over the side of the neck, but they can easily be replaced with traditional fingerings. The main challenge lies in the picking hand, mixing bass, chords, melody with a relentless percussive backbeat and a breakneck tempo. A last word on the structure of the lesson. This first part on the intro is a bit longer because I'm taking my time to address the different percussive techniques you have to use. It seems like the right spot to do so because you don't have to combine that many elements in the picking hand yet. On that percussive backbeat, the same thing I will always mention. If you listen to Tommy's live versions, that percussive backbeat sounds massive if he plays through the speakers or through the live sound system. Make sure to check out this version of Tommy playing the song in the lobby, I think in the guitar camp in Iceland this was, and this gives you a much better idea how it sounds if you're playing this on a standard acoustic without the massive speaker system behind you. If you go for the massive sound in Tommy's live versions, you are going to overdo it in the picking hand. So after this first section, after that I'm going to pick up some speed, going roughly for 10 to 12 minute sections on each part of the song. Good luck and have fun. And straight to playing. The guitar is in standard tuning and all you need is a thumb pick. I guess it's possible to play the tune without a thumb pick as well, but in that case I do think you're going to have to take down the tempo a notch, because the thumb pick in this case is quite instrumental in getting that really high Tommy Emmanuel tempo going. That being said, I'm going to dive straight into the intro. I'm already going to take down the tempo quite a bit as well, giving you a first good look at what you're up against. Here we go. And straight into the first chord of the verse. Now, all of the percussive techniques you need to play the entire tune, they are all in the intro. So we're going to take our time on this, putting a spotlight on each and every movement you need. And then if you have the percussive stuff down, that is already one major challenge out of the way for the rest of the tune. We start with three pretty basic chords. We start with a simple B minor chord shaped bar across 5 strings from the A string to the high E string, adding the ring finger and the pinky on the 4th fret, on the D string and G string, and then the middle finger on the 3rd fret on the B string. That's the first chord. Then the second chord, you're going to remove everything except for the index finger, and you're going to drop down the bar, one string, getting an open A string, and then a bar on the second fret still, from the D string to the high E string, giving you an A6th chord. We're not even going to play that full A6th in the intro straight away, but we do need that small bar. Then, really briefly, just adding the middle finger down below on the third fret on the low E string for an A chord with a G in the bass, and then we're going to release the index finger just for a full G chord. That is the basic chord movement for the intro. After that G chord, it's back up to the A chord and then back to the B minor chord. So B to A, to briefly A over G, to a G chord, and then back to the A chord. That's the chord movement, that's all you need. For the first 4 bars, sorry. We're going to start by playing the A string, D string and G string at the same time, one more bass note and then a click on the second beat. Just by angling the thumb pick slightly forward and clicking that A string against the frets. If your guitar is set up properly with a low action, this should not take a lot of physical effort from the picking hand. If it does, then do get the guitar set up properly, because otherwise this tune is going to be impossible. This hand has to remain loose and relaxed throughout the whole tune. So 1 and another bass note right after that click. 1 and 2 and 3 and on the second part of the third beat you re-pluck that whole chord, A string, D string, G string, and you're going to play another click. Because we're not playing any chords on top yet, you can play the click again just by clicking down with the thumb pick. But you can also switch over to the technique you're going to need most, which is picking up with the fingers. After that chord, the fingers sort of lift up into the air, and then you have those fingers up there to click down on the strings as well. So 1, 2, 3, 4, and after the fourth beat, another bass note with the thumb pick before switching to the next chord. That picking technique with the fingers going up above the strings and then clicking down on the strings, that is something that you are going to have to use a lot throughout this entire song. So one more time, that first bar. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Heading over to the A chord, and we're going to play the exact same picking pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exactly the same thing. We now switch the index finger and the middle finger over to the G string and the B string, picking second fret using that small bar, as we talked about before. Picking the A string, G string, and B string at the same time. 1 and 2 and 3 and again bass note, chord tones at the same time, clicking down. And now in some versions Tommy plays another open A string. In other versions he switches to a low E string, preparing for that third fret on the low E string. So this is something that you can pick and choose what you like best in the bass part. So again, that A chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. So I talked about that A over G chord, that is coming up in a second. We head straight over to a G chord now. We release the bar straight away, middle finger, third fret on the low E string, open G string, open B string. Same picking pattern. 1, 2, 3, 4, and another bass note. Exactly the same thing. So now the thumb pick, drops down to the low E string, and the picking pattern stays the exact same thing. Chord, bass note, click, bass note, chord, click, bass note, and back to the A string, and that is the exact same thing over the A chord. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, and back to B minor. Those were the first 4 bars with the percussion included. Let's have a listen at how that sounds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. Back to the B minor chord. As you see, I'm now muting the bass notes as well. So everything on the A string and G string is muted. That chord sort of jumps out from underneath that muting. So muted bass note down below and the chord on top sounds open. Same on the A string, bass note muted, open on top. Same on the G chord. So. And back to the B minor chord. Chord shapes in the next 4 bars are going to be the exact same thing, but we're going to start adding a few fills. Now we aim for the A string, G string, and B string on the B minor chord. 1, 2, same thing, chord, A string, now G string and B string, bass note, percussive click. And now we're going to add the fingers as well to that percussive click, because now the second percussive technique is coming up. We're going to move down with the fingers and we're going to try and land with the index finger and middle finger on the G string and B string right here. That way we are setting our picking hand up just to pick up for the next chord. So the muting and the plucking of the next chord should be one single movement, not muting and then trying to get the fingers on the right string for the next chord, because you won't have the time for that on full speed. So chord, 1, 2, and you see after that mute, the hand comes down and I can just pluck those 3 strings again without any adjustments here. That is the technique you're going for. 1, 2, that is what we are going for. This is going to take some time in the beginning if you've never done this before, but it will click in the end. The percussive click going down, preparing the fingers straight away for the next chord. 1, 2, 3, 4. And now he often lets go for that last bass note of the A string. Already he's going to play an open A string, preparing for the next chord, which is going to be no longer just an A chord, but a D chord shape, adding the middle finger and the ring finger to the bar on the 2nd fret. So you keep the bar on the 2nd fret, D string, G string, B string. You're adding the middle finger on the 3rd fret on the B string and the ring finger on the 4th fret on the D string, giving you an A chord with giving you a D chord with A in the bass. And we're going to pull off to that bar straight away. 1, 2. So full chord, pull off with those 2 fingers, and as you perform the pull off, Tommy quite often plays another open A bass string underneath. 1 and 2, same technique, clicking down with the fingers, preparing for the next chord. You're just going to repick the A string, G string and B string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and last bass note again is different from the first 4 bars. Now we're definitely going to play that open E string in preparation of the next chord. So one more time, that bar on the A chord, D over A, pulling off with another bass note, click, preparing to repick the chord, 2 more bass notes, a percussive click, and then moving the bass note to the low E string. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. To that A over G chord, you keep down the bar on the 2nd fret, you add the middle finger to the 3rd fret on the low E string. Plug the low E string together with the G string and B string, 1 and on the 2nd part of the 1st beat, you let go of the bar back to 2 open strings on top. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4. That is the last percussive technique. Thumb pick on the low E string, thumbpick on the open D string, and then again clicking down, and one more bass note on the low E string. And when he plays that bass note on the D string, quite often it sounds open because he's already lifting up the hand for the next percussive click. And then back to another G chord, dropping down the A chord again, and moving again on the second part of the first beat to the next chord. 1 and 2 and. Same thing again. Chord, chord, click, preparing and repicking the chord. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. And that is the full intro, because the next 4 bars are basically going to be a full repeat. Let me connect all of that, starting from the B minor chord to A to G and back to A. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. And then you end back up in the same B minor chord, and the first 3 bars are the exact same thing. That's the only difference. All the way at the end, G chord, A chord, percussive click. Tommy often adds another click with a thumbpick on the bass string, and then just 2 A chords, 3, 4 on the 3rd and the 4th beat. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 1. That is what happens all the way at the end. Then you head into B minor, which is the first chord of the verse. And that was the full intro. Now again, I want to stress this, and I'm going to keep saying this throughout the tutorial: relax your picking hand. I know it is difficult to marry this with that huge drive that Tommy manages to cram into the song, but the picking hand has to be relaxed in order to get anywhere near the original tempo. I'm going to try now and put everything together, starting from the very first bar of the intro, and I'm going to add the magnet to the guitar, giving you a good look at what the picking hand is doing. Take extra care to watch the muting going down, and always preparing those fingers to re-pluck the next chord without any extra adjustments. Here we go. And that was everything you needed to know about the intro. We'll continue the lesson in part 2 of the tutorial with a first look at the verse. I'll see you there.